So I would like to welcome everyone. Welcome to WWBIC's annual celebration, this year, 35 years and thriving. And what a beautiful way to begin our presentation today with the music that says it all, Imagine. I'm Wendy Bauman, and I'm President and CVO of the Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation, better known as WWBIC. And on this meaningful day that we gather, we will hear from our VIPs, our WWBIC clients. And on our anniversary celebration, leaders from our industry in the field. And for you today, we don't have one keynote, but three for the price of one. And so I thank Connie Evans for being here, Donna Gambrell, and Dan Bentoncourt, who will talk a moment about the past and the industry that we came from. We'll provide some context for being open for business, and then more so allude to the promise we have ahead with our community development mission, such as WWBIC, in the next 35 years and thriving. So WWBIC is open for business, expanding economic opportunity. Our world is again opening for business after the international health crisis, international economic crisis, and at home in our nation, a social justice crisis. However, we will endure, ideally learn and advance to and for the good. Serving as WWBIC president for almost 29 years, I stand here as part of a team of 65 some co-workers, 75 some WWBIC ambassadors and volunteers, and namely our WWBIC board of directors, in addition to 125 WWBIC clients, and all of you today comprising over 950 individuals. Thank you all for being actively here today. So WWBIC, with 35 years of investment now, we note our new WWBIC strategic plan that began this year in 2022 and runs to 2025. And we have four key initiatives. One is broaden and deepen our focus in underserved communities, historically excluded and often working in the margins. The second is to advance organizational capacity, and we'll update what counts. Propel our branding, marketing, communications, and outreach, and pursue strategic growth and expansion. A few examples of the things we've already accomplished in 2022, a new loan platform conversion, and all the financial institutions in the room go, a conversion. We're almost finished with it. December 15th will be where we press the last button on that. But it will reduce reporting and duplication, and it will be client-facing, and it'll be better. We've also enhanced our onboarding and professional development for our WWBIC team members. We've increased our lending limits from $1,000 now to $350,000. We've advanced our on-ground, online, and virtual hybrid WWBIC training, both in English and in Spanish, and in 2023, we'll advance the entire training schedule for the year. Our Black Business Boost program, with the foundational support of PNC and the Housing Authority of the City of Milwaukee, is taking off. The Hispanic Collaborative that birthed Mercado MKE and Mercado Madison, the Amazon for Hispanic and Latino businesses, is taking off. We're advancing Kiva in our Southeast market due to the support of the Wisconsin Business Development, and also continuing to work with other high-performing CDFIs. Self-Help Credit Union and Northwest CDC, we're creating, along with support of JPMorgan Chase, a collaborative and portal to assist minority entrepreneurs and business owners in the greater Milwaukee area, seeking advice and capital. Bruce City Match, also with the support of JPMorgan Chase, will have version 201 in the works this next year. Wells Fargo, Open for Business Loan Pool, OFN's Grow with Google Loan Pool, and a new veteran collaborative nationwide that provides WWBIC with a new veteran loan fund, reduced interest rate for veteran-owned businesses in the state. The unwavering support of the state of Wisconsin and $5 million grant from the Department of Administration to support diverse businesses through WWBIC. Our key strategic partnership with Wisconsin Economic and Development Corporation, WDC, and financial literacy and empowerment through Department of Financial Institutions. Today we have 6 cabinet secretaries with us, the Lieutenant Governor-elect, the Mayor of Milwaukee, the Mayor of West Dallas, and other dignitaries and public policy figures here. As well, our third-party research, a copy for you is on your table to review, formally published. This is the Reader's Digest version. If you want the other version, it's 39 pages back-to-back, little print done by a professor. But it proves the point that 70% of WWBIC's subprime credit scored clients witnessed improvement in their credit scores because of WWBIC services. 70% of WWBIC borrowers are still in business after 5 years. And there is much greater financial improvement. It's huge. And there is much greater financial improvement of our clients, specifically women and startup businesses. WWBIC in 2021 served 5,400 unduplicated clients, held a loan portfolio of 23 million, 900 and some loans. In 2020 and 2021, we provided $8.3 million of forgivable loans, direct grant pass-throughs, or PPP loans to hundreds of business owners, keeping them not only alive, but allowing them to transform and leverage in new ways to be sustainable and be geared for growth. To date, those are good numbers. In addition to our regular lending, we poured through $8.3 million. We provided this year already 85 loans to Kiva, crowdsourcing, 0% interest loans, totaling $650,000 to date. And in 2021, we received 430 Kiva applications in the state of Wisconsin. In the United States, last year, 10% of all Kiva loans came from Wisconsin. To date, through Kiva, we've lent $3.5 million to 542 entrepreneurs. And this year, WWBIC will collectively, through its history, surpass $98 million in direct lending. With an average loan size of now approximately $50,000, it's a lot of loans. But more importantly, it's advancing hope and opportunities to entrepreneurs. So now I'd like to begin with thanks. A very special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Johnson Financial Group, and specifically Jim Pop. Probably 6 years ago, if the president of the bank, of the financial institution, is not listed on the seating chart, I give them a call. And I say, oh, thank you so much for your sponsorship, but I don't see you coming to this event. And Jim goes, yeah, well, Wendy, I've got board meeting at noon. And I go, well, that's okay. You can come at 11 because the client trade fair starts at 11. It was sort of dead silence on the phone. I'm thinking, I'm not sure we'll get that sponsorship next year. But anyhow, the luncheon took place. Jim's in my face, a little bit taller than I am, and he goes, okay, I'm here. I grab him by the hand, I bring him into this room. 1,127 people we had that year, we were sold out. I explained the centerpieces from WWBIC clients. I took him by the hand and led him through the trade fair. And afterward, he said, thank you, I get it. And he's been supportive ever since personally, as well as Johnson Financial Group. So I thank him and I thank Johnson Financial Group. And all the bank presidents or credit union presidents, they do have to get a get out of jail free card if they're not at this event. So. I want to also thank the many major sponsors that are all listed here today. Thank you. It's hard to advance mission without money. For the past few years, WWBIC has also dedicated its luncheon to individuals that made a mark in our industry and a mark with us at WWBIC. Some of them are no longer with us. Today we dedicate our luncheon to 2 individuals. The first is Mr. Ivory Mallory, known to the WWBIC team as Mr. Mallory. And many of you know of him because just a few short months ago, a shooter rampaged gunfire on Mr. Mallory's porch where he was sitting with his wife Shirley and 2 other individuals on the porch of the home that he owned in Milwaukee for decades. His wife Shirley died and Mr. Mallory was severely injured and still is in rehab. While the individual who did this terrible act later took his life, the result and sadness remains through the needless violence in our world. We know Mr. Mallory is the security guard of BMO Harris Bank when WWBIC had our offices further up on King Drive. Every single day he would greet us. He'd grab my briefcase out of my hand, grab boxes if we were bringing them in, made sure we got safely to our car at night, and our coffee was far, far better than BMO Harris because he always drank our coffee every single day and did a, quote, security check and made sure we were all okay. But he was far more than a security guard, and so we really wish him a healthy and that he comes back and is with us. In addition, we honor John Hayden, who along with Jerry Mayman and Dick Larson created the Entrepreneurs Coalition. They invested their own dollars. They leveraged their friends' dollars and associates to support local minority-owned businesses in Greater Milwaukee. COVID was not a friend to this effort and was put on hold for a couple years until the world opened up. And during that time, John passed. So to me, he is a true hero. Those who do not have to go, do not have to give to efforts that many would think would go unnoticed. But to a small startup business in Milwaukee, it makes the entire difference of hope and opportunity. So we thank John for this effort, and Jerry and Dick for their continued support. So supporting small businesses is what we do. It's our middle name. And we know that our fabulous centerpieces have turned into many fan favorites. They're WWBIC clients, 10 hand-selected gifts from WWBIC clients from around the state. You can all argue about them when we eat during the luncheon time of who's going to take what home. Or you can buy them afterwards at the trade fair. Fireworks from West Bend, artisan salami from Viroqua, bamboo toothbrush from Janesville, bath truffle. Do not eat it, it's not candy. It's a bath truffle from a Kiva client in Madison. But our hope is that you become long-term customers and brand ambassadors for these businesses. And a special thanks to BMO Harris Bank, who joined us this year as the Shop Small directory sponsor in our anniversary year. Also visit WWBIC's website, WWBIC.com, and our client directory. We've improved that. And go to the Amazon for Latino and Latina businesses at Mercado MKE and Mercado MAD. So back to our theme, open for business, expanding economic opportunity and true empowerment. As always, our MVPs each year steal the show. So I ask our clients now to join me on stage. We have 2 WWBIC loan clients, Culmax and Little Lions Cuts, and 2 individuals that went through our program, Make Your Money Talk, with the Housing Authority of the City of Milwaukee, who are now homeowners. Danielle Goss of Culmax Craft Mocktails is from WWBIC's newest region with our offices in La Crosse in the Southwest, located in River Falls. And Little Lions Cut, Rafael Escobedo, is from Kenosha, a hair salon that specializes in children and special needs. And Sandra Harvey and Christy Johnson from the Make Your Money Talk program, who graduated from that program and are both now proud homeowners. But before they share, I wanted to give you an update from the 2 clients we introduced you to last year, if you were at last year's event. First was Hector Rivera from Madison Market. Hector has now paid off his loan. He's bankable. He grew from $2 million in sales to $7 million, and he created 20 more jobs. Fanny Tsai of Uni Uni Bubble Tea has opened her business in Appleton and already has 7 employees. But let us hear directly from our clients. First, we have a taped message of an unusual business that WWBIC provided support to. The gentleman's name is Jim Hunter. In 2010, he was at our client business fair, and you have to hear his story.
I bought a company out of bankruptcy that my friend had been running, and he joined me to run this business. I spent about $125,000 from my 401k, dug up money wherever I could, got a Patriot loan. I was a veteran, $50,000. That lasted about a year and a half, and then we ran out of money again. It was a seasonal business with a very high cash need at the beginning of each year, and we were facing that crisis, and that had caused problems for my partner as well. We went to WWBIC. They loaned us $80,000 when nobody else would even look at us, and that got us through that next year. It was 2011. We started the company in 2010. By the time 2011 was finished, we were finally bankable, and banks would talk with us because we had a track record. But WWBIC saved us at a time when nobody else would throw money at us. And we were very indebted to that. The company ended up growing rapidly, ended up at $42 million in sales in 2019, and my partner and I sold the company at that point. It was a great opportunity that WWBIC made for us, really. We couldn't find anybody else to help us at that time.
Right. I thought that was pretty special. $85,000 loan. And years later, he sold the business for over $40 million. So now I'd like to introduce to Danielle Goss of Culmax Craft Cocktails. These are mocktails, and I have to tell a story about mocktails. So I'm in Washington, D.C., actually attending Connie Evans' and AEO symposium, and there was an awards ceremony, and I go, get a drink before the awards ceremony. So I go to my favorite bar in Washington, D.C., at the Hay Adams Hotel in the lower level. It's just like old Washington, full of power senators and congressional leaders. And I went there, and I was with a dear friend and associate. The waiter comes over and says, what would you like? And I said, my usual cocktail, so a martini, Tanqueray 10, wave the bottle of vermouth over it, double cheese olives, crystals on top, writing it down, good to go. The gentleman I'm with then says, do you have a mocktail menu? So first I had to giggle a little bit, and then I'm thinking, the Hay Adams is not gonna have a mocktail menu. The waiter goes, just a minute, sir, let me get it for you. So to me, mocktails went boom when I was at the Hay Adams, and that Hay Adams has an actual mocktail menu. So Danielle Goss, her and her husband presented at loan committee. We provided the loan. I would say one of the best business plans and market research studies that I've seen. They had it planned and already in a very short time. I think mocktails are going to be big. It's not going to be my deal, but mocktails are going to be big. So, Danielle.
Thank you. My name is Danielle Goss, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cool Mocks Craft Mocktails, where we're on a mission to help everyone feel part of the social drinking experience. Headquartered out of River Falls, Wisconsin, our journey began in the spring of 2019, where my husband and I found out we were expecting our very first child. A special time in our lives. We'd always been a social couple who enjoys a beverage or two with family and friends. We, started looking for options that I could enjoy, and we struck out. Having a bottle of water or a soda just didn't fill the void of having social cocktails. And after months of crafting my own mocktails from scratch, doing a lot of market research, we learned that the demand for a ready-to-drink craft cocktail without alcohol extended well beyond pregnant women. So at 7 months pregnant, we jumped right in and started building the Cool Mocks brand. Fast forward, July of 2020, we launched Cool Mocks in Minnesota and Wisconsin markets in the heart of the pandemic. Today, I am happy to share that I'm a proud mom of 2 little girls, and we have grown the Cool Mocks brand from a Midwest brand to an emerging national brand. We're today working on a ton of new retail partnerships, and in 2023, we are working on scaling into mass retail with some of the largest retailers in the country. WWBIC has played a huge role in our growth. Really, in 2022, we were provided the opportunity to work with WWBIC, and they helped us secure an SBA loan, which growing a CPG brand is no small feat, and having working capital to scale your business is key. So we are so thankful for that. Thank you again. I guess I would just in closing share that today we know that 40% of US adults are not drinking alcohol, and the remaining of them, 80% of them are working on cutting back. So it's an exciting time to be in the non-alcoholic adult beverage business, and thank you so much for WWBIC, your ongoing support, and cheers to everybody. Thank you for the opportunity.
And one of the centerpieces is the mocktail, so you can try that. I don't think I'm in your percentages, but anyhow. Rafael Escopeta of Little Lions Cut, he actually paid off his WWBIC loan already this year, but has a lovely story to share from Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Thank you. They told me I only had a couple of minutes, and I'm the son of a preacher man, so I had to write down my speech for you guys today. So my name is Rafael Escobedo III, and I hope everyone's having a great time today. In 2017, I jumped headfirst into the entrepreneur life. I had just moved back from Texas with my wife and 2 sons, one on the way, with no idea what I was going to do. I had left a promising career behind me and looking forward to a fresh start in my hometown of Kenosha. And it didn't take long for me to realize that southeastern Wisconsin, as I'm sure your cities and towns are just flourishing and growing and doing super, super well. And But there still aren't very many opportunities like in the big cities. And one of those things, one of those services is kids' haircuts. And so somewhere where babies, teens, parents, grandparents can come together, have quality hair services, somewhere where families with special needs children or children with accommodations can come in and not feel guilty or ashamed that something as mundane as a kid's haircut, it really is stressful for all involved. A place where kiddos can spend a quality time with their family getting haircuts. And so all these things have led to Little Lion Cuts, and we've been doing this for the last 4 years, and I dare say we've been doing it very well, and there's still room for us to grow. So in November of 2017, I sat down having no idea what I was doing. I write out a business plan and what would become later Little Lion Cuts, and then July of 2018, we opened doors. The process moved super quickly, and with that fast pace came its own set of challenges, like how to actually grow and continue moving forward, building this successful business. And that's where WWBIC steps in. Since meeting WWBIC, they've been instrumental in providing me and my business with resources that are even more valuable than money. From initial contact to the lending process, and now I'm excited to say that even though I've paid back my WWBIC loan, they continue to be accessible in the coaching sector. As a second-generation Mexican-American, I only had a dream and an idea, but I didn't really have the luxury of being surrounded by anyone in the business world. But I'm glad to say that now I do. And WWBIC has excellently, over the last 35 years, created a network of like-minded individuals that can continue to inspire and provide the tools necessary for my small businesses, your small businesses, for all us to have a successful future. And for that, I am super grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. A program that sometimes WWBIC isn't as well known for revolves around financial empowerment. Many individuals come to our door and they get a no from bank because maybe they have colorful credit history, or maybe they don't have the assets that financial institutions need, or maybe they don't even have a sense of really how money works through a household or a system. So we created a few decades ago a program called Make Your Money Talk. And we help individuals reflect for a moment on how they've used their money in the past, where they're at right now with both a savings plan and a spending plan, and really where they want to go in terms of assets, a home, a business, going back to school for post-secondary education. And Sandra Harvey here and Christy Johnson were successful graduates of the WWBIC Make Your Money Talk program in partnership with the Housing Authority of the City of Milwaukee, Hackham. And today they both own their own homes, and Sandra's going to share a few words with us.
Good afternoon. I would like to take a moment to just thank God, first off, for allowing an organization like WWBIC to exist. My name is Sandra Harvey again, and I am a single mother of 4, and I am a first-time homeowner. My first introduction to WWBIC was through the City of Milwaukee Housing Authority, Hillside, where I lived for 20 years. WWBIC and the City of Milwaukee Housing Authority and Hackham partnership was very beneficial to me, because it put me upon a path to obtaining financial literacy, financial coaching, and learning how to save, and the importance of knowing credit and knowing credit scores. Through WWBIC, I was introduced to my dream team, where I took a class, Make Your Money Talk, where the instructors were so knowledgeable and so kind and so helpful. They were heaven sent. President of WWBIC, Wendy Baughman, Senior Financial Coach, Shalina Harvey, Financial Coach Terry Taylor, my dream team, from start to finish. Compass, my realty, Javon Holmes, my realtor, thank you so much, and we love our home. And the City of Milwaukee, Hackham, former Secretary Executive Tony Perez, and current executive, Resident Service Manager, Nanette Ray of Hackham. Thank you. Thank you for all your amazing advice. Thank you for your encouraging words and listening ears. Thank you. While taking the class, Make Your Money Talk, the instructors broke down a clear path, a path for anyone who was interested in entrepreneurship, first-time home buying, small business, and of course, dreams. After that, after taking the class, I had a plan. After learning the things that I learned, I had a stronger action plan. So I connected with the wonderful people at ACT Housing, program manager Deidre Kemps and housing manager Jordan. They were very helpful. They helped me with staying on top of my goals, which was paying off debt. And they also made sure that I was knowledgeable upon the pre-purchase and home buying process. My journey was not easy, but we as a family, we had to cut back. We had to cut back on a lot of things we enjoyed doing, like going to the movies, going out to eat, and other things. In 4/11/2022, we closed on our home. And this home is more than a home. It's an investment. It's an investment not only to my family, but also to my community. Christy Johnson, also first-time homeowner, echoes the same story about how much this has changed her life and her goals, and how much she had to overcome to join in entrepreneurship and home ownership. On behalf of myself, Sandra Harvey, and Christy Johnson, we would like to thank you. Thank you, WWBIC. Thank you for our dreams becoming reality.
Thank you both. So as I said, they're always the MVPs of the show. So soon we'll enjoy a luncheon meal, something a little different. We're serving tamales. I don't want any complaints, and I'm sure you're really going to enjoy them. In addition, our Director of Lending by Day, Mike Hetzel, and he asked me to say to all of the bankers in the room that he would love more referrals still for the end of the year. But he's Director of Lending by Day, and he's musician by night, and so we'll have lovely live music with Mike Hetzel and a saxophone player during the break for lunch. Open for business, though, also means more that we can do. And if you would like to make an anniversary cash or check donation, there are envelopes on the table. They're next to the centerpiece. You can drop them off on the way out at the registration booth. Or there's also QR codes that you can donate with WWBIC support. So I thank you for that in advance. I end my comments today with you will have experienced the knowledge of and the faith in our industry when you hear our keynotes. And please remember that the opportunity is always now. Before we break bread, I'd like to invite Kip Ritchie to the stand. Kip Ritchie is not only a WWBIC Board of Directors member, he's a tribal member of Forest County Potawatomi, and he will join me and share a few thoughts before we officially do break bread. Kip?
How about Wendy and her leadership? Let's give it up for Wendy. Thank you very much, and welcome. On behalf of the Forest County Potawatomi and Potawatomi Hotel and Casino, I want to welcome you this afternoon. Potawatomi has been a long-time supporter of WWBIC and their mission to serve Wisconsin. And as you've heard through these great stories here today, there's just a wonderful organization. So it's my pleasure to welcome you. I ask that you enjoy your lunch this afternoon, and thank you for your support of WWBIC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
C and B flat.
Extra, extra, read all about it. WWBIC is 35 years old and thriving. Sponsored by Milwaukee Times.
Báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Báilame la tunga, tunga, báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Te gusta bailar mi son, te canto porque te canto y me alegra el corazón, corazón. Te gusta bailar mi son, te canto porque te canto y me alegra el corazón, corazón. Báilame la tunga, tunga, báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Báilame la tunga, tunga. Báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Bailas tú y cantarás. Bailas tú y bailarás, bailas tú y cantarás, bailas tú y bailarás. Este ritmo que tú quieras a bailar. Báilame la tunga, tunga, báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Báilame la tunga, tunga, báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Báilame la tunga, tunga. Báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Báilame la tunga, tunga. Báilame la tunga, tunga, oh, báilame. Báilame, báilame. Cuando el sol miraba en la luna y la luz iluminaba este mundo, en la tierra, madre de los hombres, las estrellas ella lo sabía. Quiero cantar con estas palabras para que entiendan.
You know, poverty in America is a complex problem. Poverty and deep inequality have been with us. One of the richest countries on the planet. And we have stubbornly faced problems of deep poverty. We've stubbornly faced problems of deep and historic racial inequality, systemic racism. These are complex, hard, sticky problems. And you need solutions that are tailored to seriously deal with how we will move people forward and communities forward. And that's what's very exciting about CDFIs. We were born as a movement to do the deep justice work, I call it, of really providing opportunity where it doesn't happen easily. And this is all of our missions. This is core to who we are as an industry. You know, we understood that in order to really perfect the Union, to perfect the democratic experiment that is America, we would have to come with our capital and our know-how and our voices to bring communities and individuals along. And that's a thrilling mission. It is finally being recognized by others, and it really is our North Star for the future.
Wow, welcome back, everybody. Woo! Come on, make some noise for me. Come on.
Come on,
Let's
everybody.
go.
Come on, everybody.
There's 950 people in here. Come on. Come on. Welcome back. Did you know that WWBIC is celebrating 35 years? Woo! Yes, yes. Well, we have a distinguished panelist here. We're going to get right into the heart of our talk. You guys all have their bios, so we're not going to read their bios, but I'm going to do a very high-level introduction of everybody that's going to be speaking today. You heard Lisa Mensah. She, formerly the Opportunity Finance Network president, she shared this beautiful video and just the work around mission lenders and CDFI in our nation and how critical that is. She is now going to be leading the Oregon Community Foundation, and she was not able to be with us today, but we have the most beautiful, amazing Donna Gambrell. She's going to be with us virtually. Donna is the former director of the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Community Development Financial Institution Fund, and she's also the chair of the OFN Board of Directors. We also have in our company the award-winning Connie Evans here, to be exact. She is the recipient of PayPal's second annual Maggie Walker Achievement Award. Congrats, Connie.
Thank you.
Right. Come on.
Right.
Round of applause, round of applause. Connie is the president and CEO of the Association of Enterprise Opportunity, AEO, a very strong partner of ours. And the one and only Dan Bentoncourt is in the house. Dan, let's go.
I'm here.
You're here. Dan is the president and CEO of the Community First Fund. And our very own John Gaines, WWBIC's VP of Business Services and Finance, who's going to be co-hosting this panel with me today. And I'm Kamal G. Jackson. I'm the vice president for programs and operations here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. Passionate leaders, dedicated to the cause, really want to get to what they have to say on their reflections, of what's occurring the past couple of years, what's happening with the current state of the state, and what does the future look like for us and our community, and specifically to our work. So I'm going to kick it over to John, my partner in crime, to pose the first question.
Yes, indeed. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, I want to say a special thank you to Dan, Connie, and Donna for joining us today. We're going to start off first with a little bit of reflection. So let's look back at the past for a little bit. What I'd like to do is get started first with one of our panelists here, Connie. So Connie, if you could share a little bit about your specific reflections around really micro-lending, because that, again, that's a big component of a lot of the work that we do in our communities across the country.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here celebrating 35 years with WWBIC. And so congratulations, Wendy, and the amazing, amazing team.
Yes.
Right on.
You know, I started one of the first micro business programs in the country in Chicago in 1986. I started when I was little bitty, little baby here, in 1986. And it really was a movement that we were creating that started with women. It was all about empowering women. And some of the first loans across this country were by women to women entrepreneurs. Back in the day, they told us women couldn't be entrepreneurs, even though my mother was an entrepreneur. I came from someone self-employed. So I understood growing up what credit in small amounts could do to change families. I had the pleasure of sitting at the table with the two women here who were homeowners, newly homeowners. And I reflected with them how important I saw being the self-employed mother. My father died 2 weeks before I was born of a brain tumor. But my mother put all of us through school, through college, and bought our own home, and how much that meant to our family. Being able to get credit when most people write you off is a really big deal. Now, the other part of that reflection is you heard all of the great work WWBIC is doing with a woman, an awesome woman, at its leadership. But one of the things in our industry that has happened as the capacity has grown and now our industry is making loans, a micro loan, all the way up to $1 million or more, the largest institutions, unfortunately, are still headed by men. So we need to work on that. That's one of my reflections. The other reflection is that how micro businesses have become mainstream. When we started, it was called micro enterprise. But when I left Chicago from the Women's Self-Employment Project and started to lead our association, AEO, I made it my mission to change, to really drive a change across the country and move from micro enterprise to micro business. Micro businesses are the largest segment of all businesses in this country. We should be acknowledged as businesses. And so we now have most of our industry, politicians, media, all saying micro business. That's a huge paradigm shift. And now people recognize what it means to be a micro business. One other piece that I'll mention quickly in terms of the reflection and where the other recognition has come is the recognition of Black and Brown owned businesses. That is new for our industry. When we started, again, in the women's movement, it was who we were for. We were looking at underserved, and it was no more underserved than Black and Brown owned businesses. But that too has taken to the forefront. And it's something that now I think the majority of our industry embraces. That resilience that Black and Brown communities and entrepreneurs have has penetrated through the industry, and our industry is now more resilient because of it.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you very much. Hey, Donna, I know we've got you joining us virtually.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us again. A little bit of reflection, particularly around CDFIs and their effect so far on our nation.
Thank you so much. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. I wish I could be in the room, but I'm happy to be in the room virtually with everybody. And again, congratulations to WWBIC and to Wendy and her team for just the fantastic work that they've been doing for the past 35 years. You know, as part of this reflection, I love hearing Connie's story because it talks about the roots of entrepreneurship, especially in her family, where it happened, where it began for her, to hear again those stories about her mother and the strength and knowledge and expertise that her mother either brought to the table or learned to acquire as she went on and had her own businesses as well. And I'm envious of that because so much of my background is just the opposite of that. I grew up in a family, frankly, that did not know and understand credit. My father never had a checking account for the entire time that he was on this earth. And so we really didn't understand what it meant to create assets or to build wealth. And it was only through the work that I've done, I think, in the community economic development industry over these past 40 plus years, like Connie, I started young. I think Connie and I were probably toddlers at about the same time. But what I learned in that is just how important it is to have organizations that really serve as those entities that are going to be wealth builders. And so when I came into the CDFI fund, again, I came in at a time right before the financial crisis, the last great recession that we had, and hopefully won't be going into another one, but clearly there was a tremendous crisis at that time. CDFI fund had something like appropriations that were about $50 million. They were talking about consolidating all of the community economic development offices within government into one entity, and of course, a much smaller entity. And during that time, CDFIs stepped into the breach, as they have often done. And it's almost as though our work is countercyclical because we seem to do our best when things are at their worst. You certainly saw that during that period of time. And so my reflection really is focused on our own resiliency, but also our persistence in making sure that we're at the table, that we are there supporting the communities, that are in most need, that have been hardest hit, whether it's by health or economic crises, or sometimes just the systemic racism that has inflicted so many of our communities. And what I really love, I think, about this industry is that we continue to be focused on people of color, low income, rural communities, women, often who are single heads of households. And you've seen, and certainly for me, seen the growth of the industry itself. So as I said, when I came into the CDFI fund in 2007, there were about 900 CDFIs. There are now 1,400, representing all parts of our communities across this country, and a growing number of Black and brown-led CDFIs, which is really important because I think it's important for folks in communities that are Black and brown and indigenous to see those leaders, those community leaders that look like them as well. And so this is a tremendous opportunity, I think, for the industry, not only in working across the lines, if you will, with other types of organizations that may not be CDFIs, but clearly are mission aligned, but also working and collaborating more closely together in this wonderful mosaic that is, consists of the industry itself. So a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to do this reflection with so many great people, not only that are on the panel, but are in the audience today.
Great, thank you, Donna. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Very good reflection. And of course, my last panelist, Dan. You've been with Community First Fund for almost a quarter of a century. Certainly a lot of reflection there. Take a brief time to share with us quick reviews and reflections.
Well, Donna, I want to join you and Connie saying I started when I was young as well. So, but I tell you, I want to congratulate WWBIC for their 35 years. When my colleagues in Philadelphia heard that I was coming out to see WWBIC, they're like, oh, Wendy, she and her staff, they're my hero, the best women's business center and one of the best CDFIs in the country. So I am glad to be here, Wendy. I see you over there, and I just want to give you greetings from our friends in Philadelphia. I am the son also of a pastor, a Latino pastor, and he was an entrepreneur. He owned a grocery store. He owned bodegas. I mean, he had that fervor, that heart in him. And so when I graduated from college, many firsts, too many firsts, and among Latinos first to graduate and all that. But I did the traditional thing, went into banking, and I was a young guy and wanted to do something different, do something more for my community. So I came in the industry, and the industry at that time was founded by advocates. And the financial people were new, when I started into the field. And so I had to learn and go to school on what, working for our community was all about. And so I guess one of my reflections is, I think we've had a very successful last 20 plus years in the industry. I do think the summer of George Floyd 2 years ago made a huge impact. We always knew the impact of George Floyd to some degree or other, my organization and many organizations, but what it did for the field, what it did for bankers and corporations, we started seeing them embracing, really helping Black and brown communities and doing it permanently. So that's one reflection. My other reflection is I think we are at an inflection point. We have been a very successful industry or movement going into an industry. And I do think, those initials people now know. When I go to Harrisburg, the state capital, and I'll talk more during the next question, but people didn't even know what those initials meant. And I think what we did in the pandemic really changed that. And so the inflection point for me is, are we going to take this success and stay grounded on racial justice? We see a lot of CDFIs coming into the field that are doing loans, but we have to stay focused with that success on low to moderate communities and people of color in particular. So that to me is my inflection point. And finally, what I'll say is that, there's a lot of trust that we build with our clients. I'd love to hear the entrepreneurs come on here. I think we're successful because we fundamentally believe in our community. We believe in our clients. And a lot of times, the numbers, the ratios just don't look good. And I think it's that flexibility that CDFIs understand. It's that trust that we have in our clients that we have to continue in our DNA as an institution and as an industry.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Very, very good reflection today. All right.
Very thought-provoking. Thank you, Connie and Donna and Dan. Really, your reflections are very thought-provoking. Thank you for sharing your stories. Now we're going to turn to the current state of the state. So Donna, you are now leading the CDFI Appalachian Community Capital. You know, with the social justice crisis, the health crisis, the economic crisis, what is really happening in the field today, currently, right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, and I think because we are very much a fluid industry, we typically grab hold onto those trends and to those crises, frankly, as they're happening. We don't come after the crisis. We're oftentimes ahead of the crisis. And what I've been seeing in the industry, in particular, is the willingness for the industry itself to say, what do we need to do better as it relates to racial equity, as it relates to economic justice, as it relates to social justice? What are we doing internally within our own organizations to walk the talk, frankly? And so what I have seen and what I've been really just intrigued by are those CDFIs that are looking at, for example, their credit policies now and saying, is this too restrictive? Are we almost, whether it's intentional or not, excluding people who need to be part of that credit decision? Are our credit scores equitable? And I think when you look at community economic development, you can't just look at the product. You can't just look at the small business loan or the mortgage. You have to look at everything that is associated with that. So, what do our appraisals look like? What do our underwriting guidelines look like? Where do we need to change? As we look at developing communities and revitalizing communities, are there developers of color? Are there women developers as well? Those who have been outside the mainstream, but clearly have an interest and a focus and a commitment to affordable housing and other types of accommodations for those who are in need. I think CDFIs now, more than ever, because I think we are a reflection of the clients that we serve, understand that debt capital is wonderful. We love making loans. We know how to do that effectively and efficiently. But the grant capital is also important, not only for the clients that we serve, the customers that we serve, but also for our own organization. And so, I've always been impressed with the work that WWBIC has done. I know during the height of this pandemic, they were providing grants to small businesses and still continue to do that because there was a recognition that those grants were actually helping those small business owners hang on. They were already hanging by a thread. The pandemic made it worse, and those grants really helped them to just stay afloat a little while longer until they could really get their feet back on solid ground. You are seeing now CDFIs move into the capital markets. But you've also seen on just that other side of the continuum, those CDFIs who are saying, you know what, we started out doing micro lending. Let's continue to do that. We're never going to get rich doing that, but this is where the greatest need is. It's the nursing assistant who is trying to just make it from day to day, but needs a loan or affordable capital to make ends meet and doesn't want to go to a predatory lender or a high-cost lender. It's somebody who's trying to find, ways in which they can support their children in school to get a better education. And so I think when you look at some of those smaller loans, those smaller ways in which CDFIs have been helping their communities, those continue to be very powerful ways. And I think to something that Dan said earlier, they're now more recognizable. Still have more to do. Listen, we are not done. There is still high demand for affordable capital. There is still a high demand and a high need to make sure that people have affordable accommodations. And yet it's also very enlightening and very encouraging to see that the industry is being more recognized to the point that Ms. Kinsey Scott just recently provided a $25 million grant to the Opportunity Finance Network. Yes. This was not the first CDFI, though, that has received that kind of what I call game-changing capital, grant capital, to really move the needle. So I think, we're just seeing so much within the industry itself, but again, with a very, very astute understanding that we need to do more. If in fact we're going to be wealth builders, if we really are going to be the game changers that we want to be, then we have to do more to support our communities and to make sure that all those communities are ones that are providing the type of support and buoyancy that's needed to really move to economic self-sufficiency.
Well, thank you, Donna. I just love a couple of things, walk the talk and game changer. I love that, absolutely. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Well, one of the things that I saw during the pandemic, the CDFIs had a response. They were really concerned about their community. And you saw many CDFIs going from lending institutions to grant-making institutions. One of the things, with the government response, they did, they rolled out that PPP, the payroll protection. But you may recall that a lot of those grants and forgivable grants did not get down to the ground, didn't get down to small mom and pop. And some things were going on. There was some de facto discrimination to some degree. If you're an institution and you require that people are clients of yours to get a grant or a forgivable grant, then that has a way of affecting our community. So I do think that CDFI stepped up in ways that I think we were asking the question, did we have the capacity to help a vast amount of entrepreneurs that didn't get capital? And I think that was the wrong question. I think the right question was, what was the need? And then go buy that capacity or just work the hours. It was really a war effort for all of us. And we all stepped up. And I actually think that's when CDFIs just bursted on the scene in ways that, those initials that I talked about, all the capitals across the U.S. knew who CDFIs were. We made sure. So that's one thing. I do think that finally, now I was really enjoying the discussion on the entrepreneurs, because now we got to get back to our normal business of lending. And I really do appreciate the institution that have been lending the CDFIs so that we can go out of the recession, going from a grant-making institutions to lending organizations and doing all the things that you heard here today.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. We did step up, so with great partnerships and community, so thank you for that. Connie, what are you thinking over there?
Well, I'm a little scared because I heard there were a lot of bankers in this room. A CDFI invited me to speak, but capital is necessary, but not sufficient. And we all need to remember that. Our industry is actually made up of capital providers and business service providers. The majority of our industry members are actually business service providers who are spending their commitments and their dedication to helping entrepreneurs get ready for capital. Most business owners who think they are ready for capital, unfortunately, are declined. And it's not just the banks who decline them. CDFIs have a pretty healthy decline rate as well, even though they are much more flexible, as Dan mentioned. But they still have to do the work or find another organization to help get entrepreneurs ready. That means a lot of things, from helping you have a digital presence to helping you recognize other parts of your revenue strategy, building that marketing strategy. So all of these things are necessary to support entrepreneurs through success. And so capital, important, necessary, but not sufficient. The other way I would talk about our industry now, kind of the state of the industry, again, I'm going to use that word resilience. Even though we've come through the worst economy, pandemic-fueled economy, racially unrest economy, our business owners and the organizations inside our industry have survived. Many of them have survived. I want to follow up on something Donna talked about, which was grants. AEO, through partnership with corporations and philanthropists, has been able to administer more than $300 million in grants to mostly Black-owned businesses. I don't know if any of you in the room participated at the Fiserv event at the forum that AEO organized, where we gave away grant dollars on behalf of Fiserv. And I know some of the WWBIC entrepreneurs participated in that giveaway. And so we're excited to recognize, we've gone back and studied the people who've gotten grants and had those grants over a year. PayPal, for example, was our first corporation, our first corporate partner to actually give grants out. And in 15 million grants that were administered, $10 million, over 1,200 people received those grants. For a year later, we went back to see what had happened to those businesses. 99% of Black businesses were still in operation a year after receiving a $10,000 grant. 6 months later, 97% of businesses who received grants were still in business. But we were flooded with hundreds of responses and emails from those entrepreneurs. And they said, yeah, the grant helped. We stayed in business, and we bought this, we did that for our companies. But what they talked about most importantly was hope. And that, to me, is what our industry has to hold on to. The state of the industry, we're about hope. They told us we were AEO and PayPal were better than the government in terms of what it did for them, that somebody believed enough in them at the darkest time they had experienced in their business capacity, that we had hope that they could hold on with a small grant. So the power of grants, our industry pivoting to be able to change and do what they had to do to take care of businesses, is what I see now as the state of the industry. We have a lot to do, we have a long way to go, but if we can change and harness that sense of hope
I love that.
that the entrepreneurs, particularly Black and brown entrepreneurs, have, and use that, harnessing all of that hope to drive the industry forward, we are sitting on just a huge success
opportunity. Absolutely.
and movement to make things so much better for everybody. And that's what it is. It creates opportunity for all, not just the people that we're able to touch directly.
I love that, Connie. Thank you for bringing up the word hope. I'm hopeful that we'll get done on time and not go over, because I'm getting the middle, I'm getting a finger over there. So not the middle finger, just a finger. So really quickly, I'm going to turn this over to John. Lots of opportunity. Just a few seconds here from the three panelists on the future. Could we do that?
Sure. And I'm sure we all have seen in some way, shape, or form Star Trek, right? Think about Star Trek, science fiction. One of the things I love the most about Star Trek, Captain Kirk pulls out his communicator, right? And we've all got this communicator thing. Fast forward 50 years, we got this new iPhone, cell phone thing. So I go, certainly, science fiction gets us thinking about what can be possible. So with that, let's talk about possible. What is possible? I know 10 years might be a little too far out to think about, but let's talk and kind of maybe compartmentalize maybe next 3 to 4 years. And what I'm hoping for is a brief response, if I can't get from you, a minute or less, to talk about what is possible. So let's start with Dan. Dan, I'd like to get your, again, 1 minute, if you can, kind of couch it.
Well,
not even 1 minute.
The media thing is the economy, the inflation, and what it's doing to our entrepreneurs. So we have to respond and understand that middle-class folks can react to inflation, but poor people and entrepreneurs cannot. So we as lenders, as a community, have to come to terms and really lend in ways that are going to be reactive to what's forthcoming in the economy. Also, and this is to our elected officials and state officials, the states have a lot of Recovery Act money. And a lot of that money is being used to balance state budgets, and so some of that money should be released to help the very people that we've been talking about here today, and that should happen immediately. And what I'll say is 1 or 2 more points. One's more for the bankers. The federal regulators are looking at reforming what they call the Community Reinvestment Act, and that is the act and is the reason why CDFIs get investments. And that is now being modernized, and what we don't want the banks to do is to oppose that. Remember, after George Floyd, all the banks committed to helping and focusing on Black and brown communities, and this is the opportunity to embrace that reform, because the reform really is about race metrics as banks are measured, with what they're doing with the clients that we're serving. That's a little bit technical, but I want you to know that we have to walk that walk as bankers and CDFIs together and partner. All the years that we've been doing, we have to continue to partner, even at a time when the government wants to take a look at these things. And finally, what I'll say is, and I said this earlier, we're growing as an industry, we're very successful, and we have to think about the next 10 years and say we have to recommit as CDFIs, as the industry, to focus on low-income communities. We cannot grow in ways that are going to take our eye off the prize, which is helping out the kind of clients that we talked about here today. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Okay. Donna, how about your views?
Three things. First, as I look into the future, technology, we have to continue to focus on making sure that the industry has state-of-the-art technology, not only to do its job better, but to make sure that it is having the reach into the communities that, again, may not even be aware that CDFIs or more traditional financial services exist. And so that would be one thing. Number two, talent. Whether it's a cohort in the types of collaborations and partnerships that Connie Evans has formed, and I'm a proud AEO board member, so I've seen Connie do it for many years firsthand, bringing the right people to the table, the right cohorts, the entrepreneurs who are hungry to make those next forward-leaping steps into building their businesses and building their enterprises, whether it's that or looking at the talent and resources that are needed within CDFIs themselves and making sure that pipeline, that you're really getting that pipeline, the people ready for that next level of leadership to lead the organizations into the next, few, 10, 20 years of the industry and more going forward. And then the third thing is to make sure that we are really looking at impact in a much more substantive way in these next 3, 5, 10 years, not just the outputs and the outcomes, but also the impact. Where are we transforming communities and how are we doing that? Is it through an increased tax revenue or living wages or the quality of life or affordable living units and spaces? How are we actually measuring that and knowing that we are making the differences that we really see anecdotally, but now need to make sure that we're documenting that even more carefully in the years ahead.
Very good, Connie. Thank you. Next.
Quickly, we need to work with entrepreneurs to achieve parity and growth. In employment, I was so glad to hear the examples of business owners that have grown their employment. But Black and brown business owners are still under par to their white counterparts. We need to fuel their growth so that they can reach parity in employee count and in revenue count. Number two, we need to mend the trust. There is a huge trust gap within, again, Black and brown entrepreneurs. Later this month, AEO will be releasing our Mending the Trust report. All of you, I call on everyone in this room who can do something about mending that trust. The business ecosystem for Black and brown business owners is broken. We all can play a role in mending that trust gap. And then lastly, we need new models. There's an opportunity to fund nonprofits in a different way. Whether you're a CDFI or a small business support organization, we need working capital, just like the business owners need working capital. And so we need some new models to think about funding nonprofits. Lastly, everybody in here should join WWBIC when Wendy organizes her policy going down to the Capitol. We need to all be engaged in Capitol. AEO is making it happen at the federal level. WWBIC needs your help at the state and local level to make policy work for all of us.
That's fantastic. Round of applause, please, for the panelists. Thank you for your opinions and your views and your reflections and all of that great stuff. We are now going to turn it over. I'm going to invite my colleague here, Christina Knutson, VP of Communications and Development, to close and wrap it all up. And she has a surprise. All right, come on. Give her a round of applause, please.
We'll go out this way.
There we go. Can you hear me? All right. Thank you again, Donna, Connie, Dan, Kamaljit, and John for your words. Again, round of applause, right? Round of applause. So as Kamaljit said, I am Christina Knutson. I'm the VP of Development and Communications here at WWBIC, and I'm honored to close out WWBIC's 35 Years in Thriving annual event. We began today with thanks from Wendy, our president, our CVO, and we end today with thanks from our full WWBIC team and, of course, our WWBIC clients, our true VIPs. I am honored to introduce Ms. Yolanda Coleman of Plush Clothing in Racine. If you've not been to Yolanda's shop, I encourage you to do so.
I had the opportunity this past weekend to do some shopping of my own. My accessories I'm wearing are all from Yolanda's, and did some holiday shopping. So we're so grateful for Yolanda and all she does in our community. So Yolanda and I have the privilege of sharing exciting news of winners of the Southwest Cleared for Takeoff contest. Southwest Airlines has been a long-standing WWBIC partner who generously gives back to our community in many ways. 10 of our clients will receive a round-trip ticket on Southwest Airlines to attend a business meeting, trade fair, or inspiration trip to advance and support their business. You don't have to be present to win. We hope some of our clients are here today. If you are and you are announced, you can pick up your ticket at the registration table. I'm going to hand it over to Miss Yolanda.
Thank you so very much, Christina. I have the wonderful job of giving these lucky winners their award. So we have Southwest winners in no particular order. First, we have up Lockers Florist. Yes, give it up for Lockers Florist. Little Low Trucking. All right. We also have Fleet Clean USA. Whisk Bakery and Coffee. Key Transportation. Doomway. Empower Kickboxing and Fitness. From Head to Toe Grooming. Loving Kindness Adult Family Home. And we also have In the Garden of Eden, Wisconsin. Congratulations to all those winners.
Thank you, Yolanda, and congratulations to our winners. Again, our clients truly are our VIPs. They're at the forefront of everything that we do and they do. So we remind all of our guests, again, I think I saw some of you out shopping at the Small Biz Market and making some connections. And that will be open again at the end of our program. So please stop by before you leave today. At this time, I will ask all of our WWBIC clients that are in the audience, can you please stand for us? And yes, let's give them a round of applause. Truly an inspiration to us all. We will let our clients, if you would like to, excuse yourselves to the market so we can make sure we all stop and again, stop out and visit before you go. As we close today, we thank you for your past support, your presence today, and the promise of a brighter future ahead with WWBIC positively improving the economic well-being in our world. As we began today, we're going to close with a beautiful harmony of pentatonics and We Imagine, the empowerment that is realized when we are seen and our talents actualized.